name is Leslie Beavers, and I am the current president for Beavercreek Women's League. Very excited to be here. For those of you who may not be familiar with Women's League, we are celebrating our 50th year of service to the Beavercreek community this year. Yes, thank you. The Beavercreek Women's League, we raise scholarship funds for both Beavercreek High School students as well as our Women in Transition program that supports Greene County women that are going back to school for a career change or have some other transition in their life. And then we also support the community through community grants. So we have several fundraisers throughout the year, our biggest being our scholarship luncheon. And this year, our scholarship luncheon will be on April 18th, and the theme is actually just a gala to celebrate our 50th anniversary. So we hope that everyone will save their date for that. We have been doing the Candidates and Issues Forum for decades. So again, this is something that we believe in, and bringing everyone together to hear the candidates, hear the issues, and make sure that everyone's making informed choices. So with that, again, I really appreciate everyone coming, and I'm going to turn the mic over to our moderator today, who is Carol Graff.
That's why I'm here. I want to welcome everyone to this Candidates and Issues Forum. This is an opportunity to hear and meet the candidates who wish to represent our community locally. Each presenter will be permitted 3 minutes to present his or her platform or issue, except for the charter issue. And if you picked up a sheet on the way in, there are five portions to the charter issue, which is a one ballot issue. And so they will have, there's a person to speak for and against, and each one will have the 5 minutes. Most of them will be in the order in which you see them on your sheet, so I don't confuse you. The issues will be first. That is a difference from the past, and that was my choice. You will notice that there are members of the league who have little baskets and cards and pencils. And if you have any questions, back in, as they come up, raise your hand. They'll give you a card. Write your question at the end of the speeches. We will have a 15-minute intermission at which the league members will divide the cards into different categories, and then we'll come back and have a question and answer. When you fill out your cards, make sure you put the office to which you're asking. You do not ask an individual unless that individual is the only one running for the office, or for the issue, and write it on here, and then we will categorize them, and everyone will get an equal chance. We'll have a 15-minute break. This is also a very historic election for Beavercreek. It is only the second time since we incorporated in 1980 that we will be having a separately elected mayor. So some of us remember the first one, and some of you don't remember the first one. So for some of it, it is very historic. Pardon? Yeah, there are seats up front if anyone would like to sit down. No one bites up here. And I have one request of the candidates. Be ready when your turn will come. It will be done on the order that we have, and make sure that you speak into the microphones. And the importance is not only to be heard here, but there are 2 microphones. One is for the audience and one is for the TV. We are being televised, and this will be put on the cable channel for the city, and throughout the election season will be run so that individuals who can't be here today will have an opportunity to see what we have here. And so that with that, I will, and it's one modification to the candidates. The first candidate we will hear when we get to that, and it's my fault because I didn't know, we have the Fairborn Municipal Judge, Judge Capelli, is on this November's ballot. She's running unopposed, and she too will have 3 minutes to speak. And I'm putting her at the top of the candidates. The first issue that we have before us, and these are the issue numbers, Why are they weird? We do not have 14 issues on the Beavercreek ballot. Okay? When the county gets the issues, they give them numbers as they get them for the entire county. So we have issue 6, which is the fire issue, issue 9, which is the county parks district issue, and issue 14, which is city amendments. Those are the only 3 that will be on the city ballot. On the township ballot, you will only have 6 and 9, because the township will not vote on the city amendment issues. And with that, I ask Chief Annenboss to talk about issue 6.
Steal part of your table right here. Good morning, and thank you very much for having me here this morning. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you. Is that better? Okay. I am happy to report that this is the first time in 10 years that I've had to come before this group in this capacity, and that is because in 2009, the Board of Township Trustees approved a 10-year funding plan for the fire department that was after that, it was approved by the electorate with a replacement and combination of 2 levies. And that process in 2009 has allowed us to operate for 10 years as planned, not only with no additional funding requests, but as part of that 10-year plan, in 2013, we allowed a 2 mil 5-year levy to drop off of the duplicate. So as part of that plan, not only did we, again, operate for 10 years with no additional requests, but we actually allowed a levy to drop during that time period per our plan. So earlier this year, knowing that we had reached our 10-year goal and that the finances were about where we expected them to be, we knew that we would need additional funding moving forward. And working with the board, we have identified the need for 3.5 additional mills continuing levy, which is what is on the ballot this November, issue number 6. That levy is going to allow us to do a number of things, and the first and most important is to maintain the level of service to which our community has become accustomed. Over the years, we've seen about a 3% increase in call for services each year. This year, we're actually 12% above last year. Now, a big percentage of that came this past May. As you may recall, we had an incident that drove a large number of calls. But we are seeing year-over-year increases, and we need to maintain our ability to handle that level of calls for service. Part of that includes maintaining our staffing. So during the last 10-year cycle, we converted from a combination part-time and full-time department to an all full-time department, and that does come with a cost. The advantage, though, is we have a highly professional organization that's able to respond to all the types of issues that we have in the community. And we definitely want to not only maintain that staffing, but we were able to secure a almost $2 million grant from the FEMA, from Federal Emergency Management Agency, and that grant allowed us to hire 9 additional firefighters, and our goal is to maintain those positions. In addition, we need to build 2 additional stations with the growth and development in the eastern part of the fire district, which includes the unincorporated part of the township. We have land secured both at Fairgrounds and Trebine for Station 65 and at the airport for Station 66. We know we'll need to do those over the next 10 years. We know we need to continue equipping our firefighters with the materials and supplies that they need, and I'd like to invite you to visit beavercreekfire.org/levy for additional information, or feel free to ask me. Thank you.
Issue 9, Greene County Parks. I'm not going to pull it down each time.
Hi. First, I'm going to say this is the first time I've ever done this, so bear with me. So my name is Tobias Denson. I was appointed Greene County Parks and Trails Commissioner this past May, and it has been a huge blessing. And that's odd to say for something that you're volunteering at, but it's amazing. I'm sure a lot of you know what we have in our backyard. We have 29 plus parks that you can go to. What we have on the ballot is just a renewal, so it is a 0.9 mil 5-year renewal levy to help us continue the operations of the parks and continue to improve them. If you've had the opportunity to be at any of the ribbon cuttings this year, you would see that we have done just lots and lots and lots. I know somebody's going to ask a question about Russ. They have been doing their due diligence. They have been talking to the arbiter, I'm going to say that wrong, about the tree, and then as well as working with the insurance company for the house. Unfortunately, neither survived. When they went up into the top of the tree, it was twisted and broken, and they aren't going to cut it down, but it will probably not last much longer. So I apologize for that. Unfortunately, nature took that away from us. So anyways, if you could support us in the renewal levy, we would greatly appreciate it. There is so much that there is to offer. There's the Wiggles Club that they have for your grandchildren or your family, preschoolers or anything else, that they do lots of free programs. This past Saturday, we had an awesome old style drive-in event that we did at Caesars Ford. It was completely free. We brought in big blow-up screens, and everybody could park their cars and watch the movie. They keep up on all of the trails, so I know that after the incident that the fire chief mentioned, they were quick to get all of those clear so people can continue to use the trails that they like, and they're constantly working with every city in the county to help accommodate their needs. So that's all I have.
Okay. I wrote it wrong. And here's going to be the marathon, so please listen carefully. Brian Jarvis will speak for issue 14. Brian was the chair of the Charter Commission.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Women's League for letting me speak here today, and I've got a lot to say, so we're going to squeeze this in kind of quickly. The first charter amendment is revising section 4.02 to allow a member of City Council elected to the office of mayor during his second term as a council member. What happens is somebody runs for mayor midterm, it kind of throws things off a little bit, so this accounts for that. With the previous charter amendment allowing direct election of mayor, a council member could run for mayor in the middle of his current term. This created issues. And so, as currently written, a member serving 6 consecutive years, for instance, could not run for mayor. They'd hit that 8-year point in between. And so, similar to what was done in the charter amendment previously, due to a council member's taking a vacated seat and serving for 2 years as an appointment, and then perhaps 8 more years, those first 2 not counting towards their 10-year total, we did a similar change for the office of mayor in this case by changing the wording of it. This would then allow a council member to run for mayor midterm if that should work out. It was difficult to hit every possible situation of when somebody might choose to run. In fact, in the future, there might be a case that we didn't cover in this. A future charter amendment might be needed to prevent that. But as people find ways to do things differently, it created issues, and we believe this one will solve this for the time being. Section 5.03 was to reduce the number of readings required for City Council to pass an ordinance from 3 readings to 2 readings. There's been much concern expressed that City Council's approval process takes much too long to get through the planning process and through the council meetings, and it should operate more quickly. However, just as important and has to balance out with the public's opportunity to speak on any issue. And we found a way to resolve that. This change was for the public hearing to take place with the first reading, while ensuring the public had an opportunity to speak at the first reading, and adoption taking place at the second reading, with language added that would allow council to hold a third reading if so moved. This would reduce the number of readings from ordinances from 3 to 2, with council having the option to advance the ordinance to a third reading if it was necessary. The third one, revising section 6.01 to require the vote of 5 council members to appoint the city manager rather than just a simple majority. That was consistent with the change we made in 6.03 of the charter to require 5 votes to remove the city manager from position rather than just a simple majority. And finally, we have found a shortage of people wanting to serve on a board or commission. There are empty vacancies right now, and so this 902 allows a member of a board or a commission to serve on more than one committee. The council would have to approve that, but it would fill those vacancies. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis will be speaking in opposition to the charter amendments.
Before we get started, I think you might have cut him short. You didn't give him his full 5 minutes, did you? 3. We get 5.
They 5.
So if he wants to come back up, come on, Brian.
Sure.
I'm sorry I asked.
Now,
No, I was just,
So 2 more? Okay, see what I can do with that. Actually, the first one really needs more explanation. This was concerning the serving from moving the 8-year term to 10-year terms. We discussed this for quite a few weeks, and again, trying to modify the charter to allow council members to run, and yet still allowing the residents to vote for who they wanted to vote for. It was something that we had to work out. If we had limited someone from running for city council because they would hit their 8-year limit midterm, we stood the risk of having litigation. And it was more important that Beavercreek flow smoothly rather than have a situation come up where you get lawyers involved and just really muck things up. And so we decided on this terminology, and especially since, as I said, in the previous recent charter amendment, we did permit a council member who was appointed to his seat, Mr. Curran, for those first 2 years not to count towards their 8-year term limit. So he could possibly serve a total of 10 years. And so this change was consistent with what the voters voted on, allowing that 10-year total and still meeting the spirit of what was required there. As for the city manager being appointed or removed, again, going to a supermajority, a 5-vote rather than a simple majority, we thought more in line. And including in that was removal of language requiring him or her to reside in the city. Our legal counsel told us the Supreme Court of Ohio has rejected that as unconstitutional. We could not require that, and so we had to remove that from our language. So I think that we covered things in the best interest of the city and of the residents and of the voters. Thank you.
Okay, Harold Lewis, I'm opposing the charter amendments. The first one, as advertised by their own briefing charts, is to clarify term limits. No clarifications required. 2 terms, 8 years. That's what the city charter says. What they want to do is amend now the term limits that we have, and I personally think that's wrong. When we had the direct election of the mayor, we should have had this on the ballot at that time, so people could decide direct election of mayor and a potential 10-year term. The city council elected not to do that. What we're starting to do is tailor the city charter to specific needs. The one about the charter review, the ordinance, the express reason for this was proposed amendments is designed to make Beavercreek more friendly, and the current process can be very lengthy. What they've done is they've eliminated a lot of the time that we as citizens have to prepare to go before city council and talk about one of these. There's 3 meetings now. The first, we hear people talk. We hear the staff talk. We hear city council talk. Now, we got time to prepare for the second meeting to get educated and go talk about this. They want to eliminate that time. That's wrong. We now go into meeting unaware, unprepared, hear staff talk, and expect to participate in the meeting. It's just wrong. They've taken the citizens out of the process. And then they say to shorten the process. 2 weeks. That's the max. We'll shorten the whole process. Upfront loading, planning commission, city staff, everybody else. 2 weeks, the time between the first and second meetings. And they just negate our inputs into it. The city manager removal. I don't care if it's a 5-2 vote or a 4-3 vote. If we need to remove the city manager, we need to remove this thing about, well, we might have to pay a penalty to his contract. I hope the city council is aware at that time that we're going to have that penalty to pay. We recently gave our city manager a 5-year contract. If this is a concern, let's start going 2-year contract, 2-year option. If he doesn't like it, he can walk out the door. He can walk out the door with no penalty right now. Excuse me. The one about the boards and commissions, excuse me. This one's really interesting. They say it's to allow people to serve on multiple boards and commissions, and to give the council the flexibility to appoint the best individuals to boards and commissions. I've served on boards and commissions, and to me, that's a slap. What do you mean we're not appointing the best people? People apply. What they want to do is go out and handpick the person to be on these boards and commissions. Now, this thing about to let members serve on more than one board or commission, let me read to you what the charter will read. It currently reads, excuse me, members of a board or commission of the city shall not hold any other elected or appointed office in the city or be an employee thereof. That's the way it's written right now. The way it's going to state, members of a board of the city shall not hold any other elected or office in the city or be an employee thereof. Basically the same words, but listen to this, unless otherwise designated by council. What this says, a council member can now be on a board. An employee can now be on a board. I've sat on these boards. We need to be independent of the council and of city employees and staff members. It just won't work, in my opinion. The last thing is, as stated, we either vote for all of them or none of them. Why council did this, I have no idea. I went back and looked at all the meetings. This was never discussed in a council meeting to do it this way. The last thing I want to say is at the very first meeting this Charter Review Commission had, and I want to read to you from the minutes. Mr. McHugh, our city manager, reviewed the following sections of the charter that needed to be addressed. These 5 things were the things he brought forward. This Charter Review Commission did not come up with these 5. These came from the city attorney, who obviously got them from the city council. This, again, is my concern about the boards and commissions, staff and council members being on the same. Thank you.
Judge Capelli, running for Fairborn Municipal Court, and Beavercreek and Beavercreek Township are within the Fairborn Municipal Court district.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation today to appear and speak with you. I'd like to review some of the things that we've done while I've been the judge. We've implemented some new programs. We implemented the traffic intervention program in 2008, which allows an individual who has been charged with driving under suspension or not having a valid driver's license to plead and before sentencing, and when they come back, if they're valid and insured, then the charge is reduced. In 2018, we hit our 10-year benchmark. We had a 74% success rate for those participants, which equaled 2,914 individuals who became valid and insured during that time period. We also implemented our drug court, a specialized docket. It is certified by the Ohio Supreme Court. Basically, for the participants in this program, there are 2 additional important parts of being on probation or community control. Number 1 is the judge is actually involved. So twice a month or once a month they come in before me. I review everything with them. Prior to that hearing, though, we have a treatment team meeting. That's the second big difference. So the treatment provider, the probation officer, myself, and might be Children's Services are all there at the treatment team meeting. That allows us to see red flags a little bit sooner for the individual and address that. It also allows us a more holistic approach that we can address things as we see them. Third, we've imposed or started an internship program, so college students can actually come to our court, receive college credit. They get to see how the judicial branch works a little bit better and learn and also network a little bit. Administratively, we've also done some things. We've improved our IT quite a bit. We now have electronic files for our civil department. We also receive an interface with Ohio State Patrol to receive e-tickets. We scanned all of our old files, which were off-site, So now they are easily accessible to everybody. We've utilized outside funding whenever possible. We've received grants from the Ohio Supreme Court for IT. We received a new magnetometer, as well as an x-ray machine for when you enter the court, as well as new security cameras. We've received funding from the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections that has gone towards an intensive supervision probation officer for those who are at the highest risk. We met our goals and actually received some additional incentive funds as a result of that. We have received funding from the Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services, which has allowed for funding for our probation officer who oversees our specialized docket or drug court. And we've also received funding for individuals who participate in that program for the drug court when they need maybe some other things to maintain their sobriety, such as housing, that's sober housing, or maybe they need to get their GED and we can pay for that testing. And I'm almost out of time, so I simply want to thank you for the ability to serve your community. I also want to publicly thank and acknowledge my staff. If you've noticed, I've said we, and that's why. Thank you.
Our next office that we will hear from is for Beavercreek Township Trustee. The city is in the township, and everyone who lives in either the city or the township votes on township officers for both the Township Trustee and for the Fiscal Office. This year, for Township Trustee, there was no certified petition by the Board of Election. So we have a write-in, or we have two write-in candidates. With the electronic ballots, you have an option to push a button saying write in, and then you type in the name that you want. So it's not physically writing in. So there'll be no name on the ballot, but you have an option to, if you choose to, and I hope you do, vote for one of the two. We only have one of the candidates here to speak with us today, Mr. Kretz.
Good morning. My name is Tom Kretz, and I am your certified write-in candidate for Beavercreek Township Trustee. My wife, Kim, and I have been married 30 years. We've lived in Beavercreek for 26 years. Our sons, Joel and Eric, are both products of Beavercreek City Schools. Joel graduated from Marquette University, lives in Cincinnati, works in investment banking, and he's attending Xavier University getting his MBA. Our younger son, Eric, graduated from University of Pittsburgh. He serves in the U.S. Air Force as an active duty second lieutenant, and he's a third-year medical student at the Military's Med School in Bethesda, Maryland. I volunteered with Eager Beaver Football, other youth sports, was president of the BHS Football Club, sponsored the BHS Athletic Boosters, served on several City of Beavercreek boards, school committees, and have been your Beavercreek Township trustee for the past 5 years. My wife was active in Shaw and Fairbrook PTO, taught religious ed at St. Luke's, team mommed for Celtics, Galaxies, Eager Beaver, president of BHS Sidekicks, and is a member of Women's League and the 100 Women of Greene County. Over the past 25 years of my professional life, I have hired, trained, and managed more than 1,200 employees, contractors, and managed over 100 multi-million-dollar projects, negotiated literally thousands of purchase orders, contracts, and service agreements. I'm also a proven business owner. My wife and I have owned several businesses here locally and internationally. As your township trustee for the past 5 years, I take my responsibilities very seriously. Other elected officials know me as no nonsense, all business, and understand that I simply don't play games when it comes to taxpayer dollars. I'm known for my work ethic, attention to detail, fairness, honesty, and integrity. During my 5 years as trustee, the Township General Fund has gone from $400,000 in the red to over $400,000 in the black. I fought for financial transparency. I rooted out inefficiency, and I've held elected officials accountable for their decisions and actions. I was appointed by my fellow trustees to represent the township at the Ohio Supreme Court and in Greene County court cases where I successfully fought for Beavercreek Township residents and taxpayers. Under my leadership, we created the township's first ever investment oversight committee. My work resulted in the township generating, essentially increasing interest income on township investments, from $38,000 for the 4 years before I was elected to over $688,000 in the 5 years since I've been elected. Based on my 26 years of living, working, and raising a family in Beavercreek, my extensive resume, my commitment to this community, I believe that I'm your best choice for Township Trustee. This is a different type of race. It's a write-in. Spelling matters. My name is Tom Kretz. Please write in Tom Kretz when you vote November 5th. Thank you.
Township Fiscal Officer, one to be elected and one running, Mr. Ryan Rushing.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you to the Beavercreek Women's League for hosting this forum. My name is Ryan Rushing, and I'm running to be your next Beavercreek Township Fiscal Officer. I'm running to bring my experience as a finance director and common sense approach to problem solving to the Township Fiscal Office. I'm a two-time graduate of Wright State University, where I obtained my bachelor's with honors, as well as a master's in public administration. I have served on several community boards, including the Beavercreek High School Alumni Association, the Wright State University Board of Trustees, the Beavercreek Board of Zoning Appeals, and I have the high honor of serving you now as a member of Beavercreek City Council. Professionally, I am the finance director for the Village of Carlisle. As finance director, I oversee the budget, depositories and investments, payroll, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and income tax collection. Not only can I speak about what I will do, but what I have done. As finance director, I drafted budgets that were balanced and put funds back into reserves. I updated the investment policy, which has not been updated since 1996. And I drafted a fund reserve policy that restricts funds only for emergency uses. My vision for the Township Fiscal Office is simple: to bring a culture of collaboration and empowerment to the township and to implement proven best practices found both in the private sector as well as public sector. This includes ensuring all interim funds are fully invested to maximize every tax dollar, introduce new technology to be more efficient and effective, work to guarantee that all financial records are safe and secure from cyber attack and loss, and ensure that generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP, are implemented and followed to eliminate audit findings. In closing, I view the role of a township fiscal officer not as a political one, but as a professional one. I have taken the education courses, the experience to be a practical fiscal officer. I'm a member in good standing of the Government Finance Officers Association. I've attended several courses and am certified with the Center for Public Investment Management, and I look forward to serving you as the next Beavercreek Township Fiscal Officer. Thank you.
I've been notified that for the Beavercreek Board of Education, there are only 2 seats available. There are 3 running for 2 seats. The first person that will speak up for the Board of Education is Peg Arnold.
Is it 3 minutes or 5 minutes? Okay. A discussion occurred and I'm going to try and get this in. Hi. My name is Peg Arnold, and I am running for Beavercreek School Board again. I am completing my 16th year of service as a board member this year. I have enjoyed every single year. Kids are my thing. I'm proud to be a court-appointed special advocate for Greene County children whose lives touch our legal system for almost 3 years. I have 2 daughters. They gifted me with 9 grandchildren. And now the grandchildren are adding to the population explosion. I don't know when it's going to end, but it's certainly keeping me hopping. My life's work has been as a civil servant in the employ of several agencies: the Army, the Air Force, the Department of Energy, the Environmental Protection Agency, and back home to the Air Force. I started my career as a GS1 clerk typist in the Vietnam War. I'm giving my age away. Got lost. I moved to Dayton with my husband as a GS5 and got caught up in the women's movement in its infancy. The Air Force lost a big lawsuit because they had no women in anything above clerical positions, and they were ordered to change that. I became one of many women who qualified for progression jobs. But in the process of this, there was an awful lot of holding back going on, and I decided when I was a young thing that I was going to stand up and be counted. So I got involved with someone that was helping make the new rules in the Armed Services, in the House Armed Services Committee, and a lot of things happened from there. Women were able to make massive changes in how women were pulled up into the environment. And I'm still getting letters from people thanking me for what happened with their career, so I love that. So I'll tell you all this because I want you to know who I am. I have very gray hair, but I have lots of energy left to work with Beavercreek's children and get them the best education we can get them. I will do that by paying lots of attention to the needs of our older, like me, folks who might be trying to enjoy their golden years in fixed incomes. I'm stubborn as a mule and help the district get what it wants and needs, sometimes as a donation, like the football field that we got from Miami Valley Hospital. I was involved with Troy and Trayline and Coy, and I couldn't be prouder of how that project turned out. I just wish we'd made it a little bigger, and I will give you a lot of experience that you can trust. Thanks so much.
Chris Stein.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Stein, and I'm a new face for most of you here this morning. Let me share just a little bit about myself. Originally from Texas, I earned a Master of Education degree in Curriculum and Instruction from Texas A&M University. In Texas, I was a middle and high school science teacher, an instructional specialist at technology, and I was even an education specialist at NASA's Johnson Space Center. Although it was a sin to leave Texas, I was swept away by the Department of Defense education activity, which employed me as an instructional systems specialist at Fort Knox, Fort Campbell, Quantico, and Arlington, Virginia. Yearning to establish roots and start a family, I was privileged to find my way to Beavercreek, my hopeful forever home, where I currently work for Wright State University as a data analyst, meaning that unlike my stint with the DoD, I'm now not going anywhere. Since being in Beavercreek, I've gotten my feet wet in municipal government as a member of the Beavercreek City Charter Review Commission, and on many weekends you can find me at Ohio River Roadrunners Club races, where I volunteer as a race timer and otherwise volunteer however I'm needed. I value the importance of education, and I am a lifelong learner myself. One of the perks of working at a university is the ability to enroll in courses. This fall, I am enrolled in a school finance class because I am dedicated to learn as much as humanly possible to ensure the financial viability of Beavercreek schools. My entire professional career has been spent in public service, and I have a calling for civic duty. Now that I have established roots, I am excited to throw my hat into the ring for your consideration as a school board member. With my experience in education and my data analyst skills, I'd be a great asset as a board member. I make data-driven decisions in every job I have held, and I would continue to do so as a board member. Understanding the issues brought to the board for their consent and advice involves digesting a wealth of information presented to the board. Synthesizing data is my strong suit, and asking questions to completely understand the issue at hand is vital for this position. I am not seeking this position for my own personal benefit. I am seeking your support because I can bring a fresh perspective to the board. As a new face, I am not hindered by being the voice for certain groups in the community, but rather a voice for all stakeholders. I am running to serve as a conduit between the community and the schools with transparency and accountability. If you're looking for a candidate who is approachable and ready to listen, you're looking at them. If you're looking for new blood, you're looking at them. If you're looking for someone passionate about education, guess what? You're looking at them. I'd like to thank the Beavercreek Women's League for providing this forum for you to get to know the candidates, and I invite you to learn more about me by visiting steinforschools.com. Thank you for coming out to be informed voters, and I hope I can count on your support.
Jean Taylor.
Welcome. I'm Gene Taylor, incumbent candidate for the Beavercreek Board of Education, and I'm asking for your vote on November 5th. My connection to Beavercreek runs deep. Having moved here in 1978, I'm a building contractor for 35 years and also a retired Beavercreek teacher of 35 years. As a current board member of education, my colleagues chose me to represent them on the Greene County Career Center Board. I also serve as past president of Kiwanis. It's a group that's dedicated to improving the lives of children in our community. Over the last 4 years, I've been an effective board member. We have implemented protocols for building trust through accountability and integrity by getting community input into the decisions like hiring a new school superintendent, creating a master's facility plan, and putting the district's checkbook online. These are just the beginning to fulfilling the promises that I made 4 years ago. Though not perfect, the building blocks for a great future for Beavercreek schools are in place. The challenge now is to provide a workable blueprint to move forward from this point. We cannot rest on our laurels, as great as they may be. My business experience has taught me that to move forward, new perspective is essential. My value as a school board member is to use my skills of organization, design, follow through, and an unstoppable work ethic to help move its excellent school system forward to a more richly developed, value-added system. My corporation, Gene Taylor Builders Incorporated, has been a Beavercreek fixture since 1984. We are currently involved in a rebuilding effort caused by the Memorial Day tornado. My experience as an educator has given me a window into the inner workings of the school system. My experience as a board member has provided me insight into the interaction of schools and community. In closing, I want what we all want. We want the highest quality education for our children. We want our schools to prepare all students to meet their full potential and be productive citizens. This makes our community strong, it attracts community members of like mind, and keeps our property values high, and makes Beavercreek one of the most valued and desired cities in the region. After all, this is the reason most of us are here today. Please vote for me on November 5th, and I will continue serving the Beavercreek community through the Board of Education in a humble and effective manner. Thank you very much.
I hope you haven't forgotten that we do have members walking with the cards, and if you do have any questions for any of the candidates or any of the issues, make sure you write your name on the card, not your name, write the topic or the issue and the office for which you want to do it, and hold the card up, and those members will pick the cards up so we can have an effective question and answer. And I know this is what you've all been waiting for, and it's usually first, and now it's last. We have our separately elected mayor. The charter change was done a couple of years ago with the implementation. I'm not an English teacher, right? An implementation with this year's election. And the separately elected mayor will be elected for a 4-year term. The first person who is up for this office is Bob Stone.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks to the Women's League for this is just a wonderful event that you put on a regular basis, and I've had the pleasure of attending many of them. I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience today, including my sister who's sitting back in the back. I get a lot of support in this community from families, so I appreciate that. It's been my honor to serve you as mayor, and it is my desire, along with my lovely wife Margaret, of 46 years by the way, to continue serving our community. I'm fortunate that Margaret enjoys accompanying me on many of my social duties. Most recently, she's been my chauffeur since my back surgery, so we enjoy getting around the community, and so I want to thank my wife for joining me and making this all possible. Beavercreek has achieved numerous successes these past few years. Many are easy to see, like roadway and sidewalk improvements, along with park upgrades and new playground equipment. Others not so visible. Things like curb replacement program, upgrading the city's software so that management is more in line with the state standards. Doubling the lane miles for resurfacing. While we do resurfacing of the streets every year, we've managed to double those lane miles. Again, thanks to you. You're the ones that passed the levy that allow this to be done. We qualified to become a Purple Heart City. We qualify now as a Tree City USA. And we have created tools to help our staff and our planning development office work with redevelopment of some of our older neighborhoods. We've never had the tools in our toolbox to encourage some of the areas that need to get addressed. While each success is noteworthy, I was never more proud to be your mayor as when we all dealt with the aftermath of the Memorial Day tornado. The city worked around the clock to ensure roadways were cleared, utilities were made safe, and tree debris was cleared. The entire community came together to provide basic goods to the families who lost so much. We received help from thousands of volunteers and 34 outside communities around the state. I have always been proud to call Beavercreek my home, but I'm even more proud today of the people that gave so much in this time of need. I humbly ask for your vote so I can continue to work with all of you and our new council members that you're going to hear from soon, as we together we make Beavercreek even a better place to call home. Thank you.
Julie Van.
I am Julie Van, and I'm going to tell you 3 important things I want you to remember when you go to vote. First, I am a committed public representative. I've served as your mayor before. I listen and I advocate for Beavercreek. Second, I am an experienced local government leader. I laid the groundwork for my local government leadership with my education. I have a master's degree in public administration. I have studied government finance, personnel, labor negotiations, neighborhood preservation, and more. My leadership brought to life the 25th anniversary Street Art Beavers. My leadership developed the Beavercreek Youth Council. I spearheaded the development of a Beavercreek Forward Foundation. Thirdly, I'm a person who gets things done. Before I decided to run, I critically analyzed Beavercreek, its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Some of the list is on the handout that's on your chairs, on my campaign cards. I made priorities. First, financial accountability. Our annual city budget needs to have written performance measures. There needs to be a clear understanding of what the money's going to be used for and what we as City Council and you as citizens expect as a result of those dollars. We need written performance standards. Number 2, there's an infrastructure backlog. Our city is in a financial crisis. The capital improvement plan compiles a list of the projects that need to be done. We now have $200 million worth of projects in the list, and we have no that are deferred maintenance. They are projects needed maintenance projects or deferred repairs. And now we've squeezed in $3 more million because of all the cost of all the tornado. This is adding up, and we have no idea of how we're going to catch up with this. We are in a financial crisis. Third, the tornado recovery. This is actually when I decided to step in and throw my name in the hat. My profession was helping neighborhoods recover, turn around, and become healthy neighborhoods again. We will use volunteers, grants, and referral for other resources and services to help our residents rebuild their neighborhood. We asked the city council to, the city council asked the city manager to put together a job description for a tornado recovery concierge or ombudsman. Recovery is going to take 3 to 10 years. I would like to be there to help. I have earned respect as a community leader. I am a person who delivers high-quality governance. I have a proven history of experience, knowledge, and hands-on involvement. Vote Van on November 5th. Thank you.
If you look at your list for the Beavercreek City Council, there will be 3 people to be elected. These are, except for one, new names for City Council. So listen carefully, take your notes, and good luck. Pete Bales.
All right. Thank you, Carol. My name is Pete Bales, and I'm excited to be running for Beavercreek City Council. I'm a proud lifelong resident of Beavercreek and have been married to my wife Amanda for 15 years. I have 2 kids. My son Jack is 13, and my daughter Kara is 9, both attending Beavercreek schools. I've had the pleasure to serve an array of passionate citizens for 24 years in a variety of different capacities in local government right here in Beavercreek and in neighboring Fairborn. Every position I've held has given me a deeper understanding of government operations and made me more and more passionate about serving our community. I'm 47 years old, and with the exception of college, have always lived in Beavercreek. What that means to you is I've developed really deep and meaningful relationships with neighbors and politicians and human interest organizations and nonprofits. All of those relationships will be very, very important when I serve you as city councilman. I'm a member of the Beavercreek Wetlands and the B.W. Greenway Community Land Trust. I have a strong belief in maintaining high environmental standards and absolutely love the parks and bikeways and green spaces in Beavercreek. I have served on the Beavercreek Parks and Recreation Master Planning Committee, and I've also served on the Beavercreek Golf Club Advisory Board. I've served on my Homeowners Association board, and I've been an advisor to Owens Place since its inception. I'm a member and past president of the Rotary Club and have dedicated my adult life to making a positive impact on the community. I am a credentialed city manager through the International City Managers Association, as well as a certified Parks and Recreation professional. These credentials are important to me. They have certified that I have the experience and live by a code of ethics required to effectively manage a government at its highest level. While I have no intention to run the day-to-day operations of the city, I believe as a councilman, I can provide professional insight into issues and legislation like no other candidate. I want to keep Beavercreek affordable while preserving our property values. To accomplish this, I believe it's critical to seek alternate funding opportunities and revenue sources to alleviate some burdens on property taxes that are becoming increasingly harder to afford for many. I will ensure that all perspectives on issues are listened to and evaluated fairly. I will represent you. It will be my pleasure to be your city council person, and I would like to thank the Beavercreek Women's League for hosting this event and thank all of you for educating yourself about the candidates and issues that will shape our community. Thank you.
Glenn Doerr.
In 1980, Beavercreek was incorporated as a city. Next year, in 2020, the city of Beavercreek and I both turned 40 years old. And so the question in front of us is, what kind of city do we want to be moving forward? My name is Glenn Dewar. I'm a local professor at Cedarville University, where I teach international relations and political science. My PhD is in political science from Kent State University. I am a husband to my wife Rebecca of 10 years. I'm the author of 2 books, and we have 3 children, one that's in elementary school and 2 more on the way that will be there shortly. And so that's one of the big motivations of my running for city council, is protecting our schools and our emergency services. Now, I know that city council is not directly over the schools, but I want to do the very best that I can to work with those on the Board of Education and to make sure that we're making real investments in our children. I also know that our police force has 1.04 officers per 1,000 citizens. That's a little over 50 officers. I'm a fiscally prudent guy. I don't like writing blank checks, but I want to make sure that the city of Beavercreek keeps moving forward, that we are a city that invests in our children, that listens to our police chief, so that we can remain a proactive city rather than a reactive one. The second reason why I'm running is to further develop thriving businesses in Beavercreek and keep those that we have whilst injecting new ideas. As the vice chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals, I know the importance of having a very strong and strict zoning code so that when you invest and I invest, we can make sure that there's a good return on investment. We need new ideas. I'm not here to rock the boat, but what I am here to do is present new things to you. And so what I think we need to do is describe Beavercreek as a city that's protecting America in relation to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I propose that we market ourselves as a STEM-C city. That is, that we are focused on science, technology, engineering, math, and computer science. Finally, I want to be a very local candidate. I'm a half marathon runner. What does that mean for city council? It means that if you have an issue, I will run to your neighborhood. I will physically go and have a look. When there are new developments out there, I want to make sure that my feet are on the ground. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I have a website, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. Please connect with me, and please vote for Glenn Dewar on November 5th. Thank you for having me.
That was funny. What was funny is I was on the first city council. That tells you where I've been. Don Adams.
Before you start my time, I'd like to say one thing. A good friend of mine just received an award this week. She goes to church with me. A lot of you may know her, Ning Peel. She got the Points of Light Award from one of the George Bush sponsored deals from several years ago, and she just received that. So I just wanted to make that. I think that's up to the city to recognize our citizens when they do things like that. So, okay. Her name is Ning Peel. She's helped well over 1,000 families do basically everything they need. She works a lot with refugees and anyone that needs help. Ning she's just amazing. So, okay. Good morning. My name's still morning? Yes. Okay. I'm running for city council. I've never held a public office before, but I've been very active in Beavercreek. My wife Ann and I have lived here for 45 years. We've actually been married for 51. We have 3 children, 5 grandchildren, and a portion of those graduated from Beavercreek schools. I've been involved with Beavercreek since before we became a city. I was a member of the Beavercreek JCs in the late 70s and early 80s, and went door to door trying to get people to sign petitions to put the Beavercreek on ballot to become a city. I worked with the Beavercreek High School Show Choir. I've served as the president of the BMPA, the Beavercreek Music Parents Association. I spent the last 12 years volunteering with the Beavercreek Police Department's COPP program and continue to work with this organization. I serve as the president of the Citizens Police Academy since 2005, and I served on the Beavercreek Charter Review Commission this past year. In addition, I served as an elder in my church for 11 years. I volunteered outside of Beavercreek as well, with the Greater Dayton Emmaus community, holding several positions, including chairman of the board. I served as a squadron commander and group commander of Civil Air Patrol. And during most of that time, 30 years to be exact, I was a sales manager and national vice president of sales, traveling during the week virtually all over the United States and abroad. I currently serve as a special events coordinator for the Wright B. Flyer Museum and serve as a board member for the Wright B. Flyer and NAHA, the National Aviation Heritage Alliance. I was reading something recently that was written by John Gardner. It's a scholar, cabinet member, and founder of Common Cause. He said, and I quote, "I keep running into highly capable leaders all over the country who literally never give a thought to the well-being of their community. And I keep wondering who gave them permission to stand aside." He went on to say, "I'm asking you to issue a wake-up call to these people, a bugle call right in their ear. This nation could die of comfortable indifference to the problems that only citizens can solve. The influential citizen, whether they are a farmer, banker, labor leader, professor, or lawyer, cannot evade this responsibility to the larger community." After the recent tornado and all the devastation it caused, I worked with the police department in the affected areas and was impressed by the way the citizens of Beavercreek came together to help each other. It made me realize it was time for me to take an additional responsibility and step up to help the community to continue to be a great hometown and safe and comfortable place to live. I've decided to run for the position of Beavercreek City Council because I do not want to stand aside and just let things happen. I want to be a part of the process. There is a great spirit here in Beavercreek, and we have a lot to be thankful for here in our community. The employees of the city of Beavercreek work very hard every day to help this community be a safe and comfortable place to live. And I, for one, am proud to call Beavercreek, Ohio, my home. I'd appreciate your support on November 5th. Thank you very much.
Charles Chuck Curran.
Thank you very much. I want to again congratulate the organization for 50 years of service to the city of Beavercreek, the township, and all the things that you have been doing over these many, many years. My name is Charles Kern. I'm a member of the Beavercreek City Council, proud husband of Mara, who could not be with me this morning. Lifelong educator, over 40 years at Sinclair College, taught state and local government, and I'm a proud Beavercreek City Council member. I'm seeking your support this morning for my re-election to City Council. As been mentioned, we've been going through some interesting times in Beavercreek, and we have seen the power, all of us, of the devastation of Mother Nature with the Memorial Day tornado, as well as, of course, the tragedies in the Oregon District. These are challenging times for our community, but each challenge comes a grand opportunity to improve the quality of life in the city of Beavercreek. And we need a steady voice on council. I feel my background gives me a unique set of skills and experience to serve on city council. As I said, I've been an educator for over 40 years at Sinclair. I'm a lifelong public servant. I've served on a wide range of offices, from the halls of being a city council member in Dayton, Ohio, to a county commissioner for over 24 years, and also state senator of the 6th Senatorial District. I've taken each opportunity as a challenge on how I can serve and better my community. And as your Beavercreek City Council member, I'll continue to advocate for fiscal responsibility, for essential public services that make our community great, such as our police, parks, recreation, and maintenances. At the same time, to realize that we have challenges that will include, but not limited to, alternative revenue sources that have been mentioned, the challenges with our aging infrastructure, roads, bridges, and stormwater management, and the development and redevelopment of our community. I'm asking this morning for the league to consider helping us. We have a grant that's been applied to the Dayton Development Coalition to develop over 400 acres of our land that could turn into property taxes, land that could turn into other types of taxes needed badly. And our application is in, and I'd appreciate the league considering supporting this application with a letter. It's always a challenge, but it's one step towards developing these research park lands here in Beavercreek, and earnestly encourage your support of that. I am up to the challenge, and I ask for continued support so I can continue to serve you as a Beavercreek City Councilman. And remember, believe in Beavercreek, Curran does. Thank you.
Thank all the speakers. Each of these questions will be for a group of people or a person discussing an issue. We are not addressing any question to individuals. And so they will be everyone, if it's a council question, everyone running for council will be able to answer the question. Everyone running for school board will answer school board questions. The first one is the Beavercreek Township Trustee. What are the biggest issues facing the township over the next 5 to 10 years?
Thanks, Carol.
1 minute per answer.
Thank you for the clarification. From a township perspective, we have a number of issues and challenges that we face. One of the largest, obviously, that is on the plate this November is the 10-year funding plan for the fire department. This is something that took in a tremendous amount of work that the township staff and a lot of community stakeholders put together. So funding the EMS and the fire department for the next 10 years is our most immediate challenge. Beyond that, we have experienced exponential residential growth in the unincorporated portion of the township, coupled with really tremendous commercial development in the city of Beavercreek. Again, because the township provides fire and EMS services for all of Beavercreek, our resources are stretched because of that development. We also have the US 35 project on our plate. We have development that will occur at the airport, the Greene County Airport, and working really through all of those challenges are some of the objectives that we're working for, but also things that really require someone with experience in project management. So, thank you.
For the fiscal officer of the township, fulfilling 2 financial officer positions seems like 2 full-time jobs. How will you be able to respond to time-sensitive issues? Have the conflict of interest issues come up? What will you do? And how do you keep both charter codes distinct and separate from each other? I'll give you the questions.
Well, thank you for the question. For those of you who do not know me, I have been involved in Beavercreek since I was in high school. My commitment to this community, I started out on the youth council and have been involved in this community ever since. When I put myself in a position, I do it to the fullest of my ability. The Ohio Revised Code is very clear about the responsibilities and duties of the fiscal officer. The only requirement of the fiscal officer is to attend 1 meeting for every month or every 3 months. To me, that is the very bare minimum. That's not something I would ever consider. In my role as finance director for Village of Carlisle, I have the opportunity to use my leave time and to be responsible to not only my current position, but to those of the township. Part of management is to hire good people and to give them the tools and resources to empower them to do the job, to be able to respond, and to carry out their mission. The duty of a fiscal officer is to be the fiduciary, but to also give the tools to the staff that they need to accomplish the job. Thank you.
Mayoral candidates. The City Council voted to increase their per meeting pay from $600 to $1,000. Did you vote for it? And if so, why did you think this increase was deserved? Mr. Stone?
Okay, start off, simple answer, yes, I did support it. But I will clarify just a little bit. City council pay was $6,000 a year. And I believe my math is correct, that comes out to $500 a month. And we have at least 3 meetings a month. We did raise the pay, not to $1,000 a meeting, but we raised the pay to, I believe, $10,800. So that is $900 per month, which comes out to about $300 per meeting. And that doesn't count all the activity that the mayor, the city council, I mean, we roam the community appearing where we're asked to be. So I have, it's always cost me out of my pocket. The salary does not cover the expenses. So I appreciate council that did decide to increase the pay. And even that will probably not likely cover all expenses. Thank you.
I too supported this change in salary. This one? I too supported increasing the salary. We need qualified people to step up to the plate and donate their time, talent, and expertise for Beavercreek City Council. And it is a big job. When I have been the mayor, I have been donating 20 or 30 hours a week. It's not just those meetings. It's how to build those teams. It's how to get people involved and engaged and supporting what the city's doing. And so I thought that since it hadn't been raised for, was it 20 years, I thought it was time to increase the salary because I wanted qualified people to step up to the plate and run. And I thought that we needed to just update what was being paid. Thank you.
Issue 14, Charter Amendment. What was the reasoning to vote on all 5 sections as one instead of each individually?
That decision was council's decision. That was not a recommendation that we made. We presented them all 5 options. I think what they found was that last year at the general election, they had 2 or 3 charter amendments on that ballot. They put them all at the same time. It was, I think it was a very efficient way to do things from their point of view. But that was not something that was our recommendation. We sat down, just like we're doing right now, and we discussed all 5 of those charter amendments. And so I could say that was not our decision to make in that case. Ours was to recommend changes, and that was the extent of that.
As I mentioned earlier, I went back and looked at the tapes, all 3 of these meetings, where they discussed putting these things on the ballot. At no time in those 3 publicized meetings was there any discussion at all about combining these 5 charter changes into one ballot issue. And my second concern is this the wave of the future? If this goes through like this is the wave of the future. We're going to have multiple ballot issues to be voted on. You might want one, but you can't vote on it because of the 2 bad ones. So this was just handled improperly, I think.
As an aside, this is not the first time it was done this way. At one time, there was a list of charter amendments, and I work at the Board of Elections, and it took people forever to go through. I believe the last time they were all clumped together. So it's a precedent, one way or the other. This is a question for school board. Local report cards for district were recently released. Beavercreek got a B. Why? What do you support for the district to get an A? And we can start any way you want.
Well, I would say that anyone who hasn't actually looked at the whole of the report card might not be too ready to criticize a B versus an A. There are things in there that our children, as it exists today, are probably never going to completely be able to do. But nonetheless, I can assure you, we're trying our best to get an A on everything. We're highly comparable to all of the other high districts, and our teachers are doing data-driven work in the elementary buildings on up, trying to give the kids what they need to pass everything the state throws at us. Thank you.
Well, as a data analyst, I was very excited when the report card data came out because I was like, yes, new data to look at. So I poured through it. Of course, I haven't been through all of it yet, but the first thing I'll say is that the grade on the surface doesn't really show the whole picture of what's going on. When you really dig into the data, there are different stories of how the because it's mostly based on testing, how the testing is reported and where it's reported that affects the grading. So it's very important to keep that in mind. Of course, the school district can educate the community on what these scores really mean and how they compare to comparable districts. For instance, our scores are better than our most similar district, Centerville. So that's a key point to point out to everybody. And just don't look at the surface. You have to dig in deep to see the real picture. Thank you.
Great job. Okay, well, testing in general, to me, is a political exercise as an answer to a real-world problem. The testing, of course, we spend so much time focusing on teaching kids to be good test takers. And I guess we'll all have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, when was the last time we got tested on math facts? Or what's the capital of a certain country? But the truth is, when you drill down in the data, the only way to really look at these, if you want to compare schools, is to compare them to the peer groups that represent populations like Beavercreek. And with that being the case, we do as well or better than most other schools of the same size, the same type. Our teachers and support staff, bar none, I think are the best in the area. And we try and focus on teaching. The problem with testing as it is not for education, it's of education. It's not to help kids become better students. It's to compare districts from one to another, and that's a sad part. Thank you.
I see all the teachers in the room going. For Township Trustee, Mr. Kress, why did you decide to run as a write-in candidate?
So in May of this year, my wife and I purchased a new home in Beavercreek Township. 5 years ago, I stepped up to be a trustee in Beavercreek Township because I felt I had a lot of gas still in the tank. I'd retired at a young age. We were blessed. The Board of Elections made a decision in August that essentially made an unopposed candidate ineligible to run for Township Trustee. My fellow trustee, Deborah Wallace, has announced a campaign for County Commissioner. I support her. I think she'll be a fantastic County Commissioner. At the end of the day, I'm trying to bring 4 years of continuity to this position. And that's why I'm asking for your vote.
Mayor candidate. I don't know if both of you can answer it. As mayor, will you file to the Board of Elections that you were receiving meals and PR during that night out with the mayor? I think the mayor will explain what night out with the mayor is.
Well, as with any situation, interpretation is a big part of any opinion. There is an event that we call First Thursday, and that's an event that is not a mayor's event. It's not a night out with the mayor. But I do happen to attend those, and I do happen to be the MC at those events that are hosted by various businesses or assisted living facilities around the community. Those are not anything that call any revenue to me, and they certainly do not provide a meal. But anyway, I'm very proud. The person that runs those for me is here today. I'm very proud of those events. It brings community leaders from all aspects of the community together to talk about what's new in your world, and that's what it's all about. Thank you.
Yeah, it's important to provide opportunities for citizens to come in and talk about what needs to be done. And this is the way that Mayor Stone has chosen to do this. When I've done this, I've not asked for businesses of the Chamber of Commerce or in the community to host and donate food for them. But I have done this, and we've had bagels and coffee or that kind of thing. I think it's really important that the mayor invite residents from various sections of the community to come together and share their needs and concerns about the city. So philosophically, what the purpose of the meeting is important. I have not been to any of Mayor Stone's meetings, unfortunately, but I understand the purpose.
Board of Education, what ideas do you have for keeping up with the needs for additional classroom staffing capacity as Beavercreek continues to grow? And we can start with the T and go backwards.
One of the great problems that we have in Beavercreek is the unbridled growth, especially at the township at this point. We are faced with very near capacity or over capacity schools right at this point in time. So with changes in unfunded mandates and the needs for classrooms and classroom sizes, it has really put a pinch on our facilities. In terms of that, anytime that you deal with those types of issues, just like any of my building projects in my company, once you finish that, now you have to feed and water that thing. And what that means for us is that we need to staff those things. Education cannot be done without staffing, without good staffing. And that's the position that we're in Beavercreek. And it is because of the growth at this point in time. Thank you.
As Gene said, it's all about the growth. The Board of Education recently approved the master facility plan, which calls for a new high school as well as reorganizing the grade levels of elementary and middle schools. So that's so approved that plan, but the details are still yet to come on how to make that work. Whenever you have new construction, that means a bond levy. But what we need to make sure is that we're smart about how we are coming up with the amount of money and the plans for the school itself to make sure that this is truly an investment for the life of the bond. We don't want to find a situation again where we build new schools and 5 years down the road they're over capacity. So we have to be smart about how to handle the growth capacity, and I think the staffing will be helped by how they're wanting to combine the grade levels. I think will help staff the school, or the schools, especially at the elementary level. So I think it's a great decision, but a lot of decisions to make, and I hope I'm part of that decision-making process.
I have a sign-up board over here. If you want to sign, by the way, just write your name and address down. And I've got some young guys that are going to take care of signs for me. I'm a little old to carry them around. Thank you. Okay. First of all, the projections that we had for the for Trebine and Coy, we ended up going to the largest projection that a company that we've used for 10 years reliably made. And we grew faster than they even managed to do, that they even thought we would. So the building is so fast. I mean, we're not building them and we're not printing kids, but boy, are we getting them, you know, and we have to take care of them. So the new school will be at Alpha Bellbrook and Trebine Road. There are tons of facts available about what we're doing. We own that land outright, by the way. It's 90 acres, and we own it, so we're going to use it. Thank you.
Alpha, Bellbrook, and Shakertown.
Right. Alpha,
No,
Bellbrook, and
no.
Indian Ripple.
Indian Ripple.
Across from the Russ Center. You know what? You know, Alpha Bell to Indian Ripple, it will be the southeast corner. It's the southeast corner of Indian Ripple and Alpha Bell. I forget what we called the name of the property. It was a big farm.
If you come off 35 and go all the way down to Indian Ripple and turn, you'll be looking right at it where it comes up to it's not Shakertown.
No, it's Indian Ripple.
Indian Ripple and Alpha Bellbrook. Sorry.
It's where the SRL was, if any of you, it's right across from where SRL would have been.
Next to the Ryan Homes development that's going up right now. And I want to thank them publicly for doing a $5 million job for us and bringing all the utilities right where we need it.
Thank the township for making that happen. For City Council. If the Beavercreek City Council could vote itself a raise, why couldn't it set aside sufficient funds for an emergency fund? And we had one disaster and should be prepared to fund assistance in case of another. As it is, the council needs to raise funds aside in preparation. Okay. Why don't you have money set aside to take care of emergencies? And since it's been said that all the emergency money has been spent, what happens if we have another one? I think that's the essence of the question.
All right. Thank you for the question. I think it's really important. And unfortunately, the tornadoes situation really brought the city funding to light. That the entire city operations, generally speaking, are funded through property tax, and their reserves are completely funded by property tax. And when we had an emergency, we had to spend it all. And so I think it's very important that the city explore alternate sources of revenues in order to build up those reserves and also give the city some operational overhead to make critical improvements in the community. Thank you.
I'm a professor and I love to talk. But when I announced my bid to run, I went on a listening tour. And I effectively visited every department within city government. I attended every meeting, basically from late February forward. And essentially what's on the table right now is that the city manager, Pete Landrum, is trying to address this issue. I support his desire to create a larger emergency fund for issues like this. Essentially, there's a lot on the table that's very difficult to predict, to forecast. But I think Beavercreek needs to improve its fiscal position. It needs to grow its emergency fund to a sufficient standard because it shows just the danger of one event like a tornado. It hit my neighborhood, and really the city stepped up. It did a lot of great work, and we need to bolster the city's ability to do that. Thank you.
I like to be tall. First of all, the raise I didn't have anything to do with. I didn't even know what the number was until this morning. Because that's not the reason I'm running for council. But I have visited with all of the different department heads as Glenn has, and the city has been running very, very lean. They do a really good job of managing their money that they do have. And the tornado, what that did is just really opened up, took a scab off a wound to really show us that we really need to do some more investigation into how to raise funds and have funds for the general fund. Because right now, he's right, if another tornado or another disaster happens, an ice storm or something like that, we could be in real trouble. So we need to find ways to replenish that and still let the city run as lean as it can.
On the issue of the salary increase, I supported it. Both mayoral candidates, I think, adequately explained why it was needed. One thing to remember here, Beavercreek is the second largest suburb. You got Dayton, Kettering, and then you have us in Beavercreek. So the demands, as explained by both the mayoral candidates, is increasing. Our city is taking a more prominent position on issues and being involved in a lot of things, and I think that was supported. The other item that...
It's a reserve.
Oh, I wonder, what was the other one here? We keep a 20% reserve, or tried to keep a 20% reserve in each one of our levies. We have restricted that, cut it back, because we had to, again, as it's been explained, to get a fund in place. And we're going to be looking, just as been mentioned, at alternative financial resources that we're going to need to be able to meet some of these emergencies. Hopefully we don't have anything like that in the future. Thank you.
There's some background here. Both the city and the township at one point had additional kinds of funds coming in. The inheritance tax provided significant general fund funds that could be set aside for some of these things. And the local government funds were cut in half, 50%. So the amount of discretionary funds that either jurisdiction has been very difficult to manage on either level. As a matter of fact, the township cannot have a reserve fund, which makes it very difficult when an emergency such as this has taken place. So just a little background. I have no skin in the game, so I just thought you'd like to know. Charter question. First one, mayor office. If one runs while already they will have to resign and will have an appointed, not elected, city councilor. This already happened when Mr. Kern was appointed. Voters did not get to choose a city council member when Mr. Stone chose to run while already serving a term with 2 years left to go. How can this be addressed?
Okay. This is the complication that occurred. And I went through the same thing. In 2009, when I was appointed to city council, it was because Jared Martin won a seat to the State House. He was at the end of his 4-year term, and so there was no problem there. I was appointed and then ran that next November. When Mr. Kern was appointed, there were 2 years left on on the mayor's term, and there were two conflicting parts in the charter that said he had to run the first year he was appointed, and he's got to run again now. And so there had to be a way to fix that. As we're going along and people find innovative ways to run for council, we're trying to predict those and make sure that the charter amendments close those up. And so, yes, if depending upon who wins this mayor's race, will change the layout of city council. In one way, one person will finish their 4-year term. The other way, we'll have to appoint someone to finish. I mean, it's strange, but people are very innovative, and that kind of messes up rules. But it will be. You'll see at least 3 or up to 5 new council members this year or next year, depending upon how that happens.
As I mentioned earlier, I've sat on 2 charter review commissions. This is probably 8 years ago. We addressed this very question. Our simple solution was you go to the most recent election, in this case, these 4 gentlemen, and you say, do you want the job? If you didn't get elected, do you want to fill that position? The rationale being, we didn't like the idea of city council stacking the deck in their favor, going out and getting the person they want to support their known agenda. So this is the way I think we ought to do it, is go ask these gentlemen if they would like to have that job. If they don't, then you can go out and get candidates for the job. Thank you.
Last but not least, school board candidates. Beavercreek schools are funded by a multitude of renewal levies. What is your vision for the future school funding that grows with the city?
So what I see the school district trying to do right now is when renewals come up, instead of doing a renewal emergency levy, they're doing a substitute emergency levy. What that allows to happen is as valuation increases, the amount of money that's collected from the levy would also increase. With a regular levy or an emergency levy, that is not the case. It's a set amount, and if valuations go up, then the millage goes down. So the push that I see is getting the levies that are currently in place, getting them up to when they need to be renewed, and then substituting those so that we'll have an increase of funding from that point on. Of course, I am open to all the different options of funding schools because it's a mess in Ohio, and we just have to do what we have to do, but I see positive in what the school district is trying to do, and I want to work in that effort as well. Thank you.
It's a hazardous road up here. Okay, I want to read the... Okay, my vision is that the state of Ohio will one day be pressured sufficiently by its residents to put an end to the insanity that they like to call school funding. I have been involved for about 5 years now in doing lobbying to the state, talking to everybody and anybody who's on any committee that's got to do with funding, even talking to people outside of people that are attached to Beavercreek. I want to shock you a little bit. How much money do you think we're getting per child from the state to educate them? It's a little over $2,000. The rest of that money, up to the 12-ish thousand that it costs, is being paid by you. And until we can get them to pay what was supposed to be paid to us, we're not going to be able to do anything else except what we're doing. We're trying, but the state is not living up.
So if you have about 3 or 4 hours, we can discuss school funding. School funding been found illegal by this by the Supreme Court that the state legislature has found in their infinite wisdom to not do anything about that. So that leaves us in the position where we're at, and I think Peg is trying to get to that point that we're on about an 80-20 split. As taxpayers, we have to fund Beavercreek schools for about 80%. The state gives us 20. You don't have to go very far to see that split go just the opposite direction. Levy fatigue is a reality, especially in Beavercreek. We have levies on the ballot for any and all types of things, from roads to fire, to the police, to the libraries, to the parks. So I get that. And as a taxpayer, it's something that we have to face all the time. On the board, we try to be the best stewards of your money that is possible. And I, for one, would never ask for any additional levy money if it weren't absolutely needed. Thank you. I need another 2 hours.
I want to thank everyone for coming. This outpouring of interest is the largest in any venue that I've ever been, and I've been to a few of these candidates and issues. It's important to be aware of who and what is going on in our community. That was the reason the Beavercreek Women's League was formed 50 years ago. Some of us did. So I'd like to thank everyone for being here.